Well, hello and welcome to another episode of today's Conversations on Leadership powered by Life University. I'm Dr. Gilles LaMarche, your host. And as you know, at every podcast, I start with a quote that I believe best exemplifies our guest. This is a long one, but it's definitely worth reading. It comes from an article written by Bill Taylor that was entitled, "Do You Pass the Leadership Test?" And this gentleman today, our guest, definitely does. And the quote goes like this: "The true mark of a leader is the willingness to stick with a bold course of action, an unconventional strategy, a unique product development roadmap, a controversial marketing campaign, even as the rest of the world wonders why you're not marching in step with the status quo." In other words, real leaders are happy to zig while others are zagging. They understand that in the era of hyper-competition and nonstop disruption, the only way to stand out from the crowd is to stand for something special. The only way to stand out from the crowd is to stand for something special. And our guest today stands for something special. He is a chiropractor with more than 2 decades of experience. He is the founder of 8 Weeks to Wellness. It is my honor and privilege to have as my guest today, Dr. Dane Donohue. Dane, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gilles. It's absolute honor. As we set up this podcast, I was really thinking about leadership and its impact on my life and its impact on my practice, my family. And leadership touches every dimension of your life, every important dimension of your life. So I think this is going to be a great conversation.
So what I'd like you to share with our audience really is the development of 8 Weeks to Wellness. When you started this, I believe as the co-founder with your sister, Dr. Denise, if I'm correct.
Yes.
It was a little bit different. I mean, people weren't doing this kind of work, but you stood out from the crowd, and not only have you impacted the health of probably thousands of people in your community, but by helping other doctors understand the concept of 8 Weeks to Wellness and teaching it, you've obviously impacted millions of people around the globe. So share with our audience how that got started, what the vision was, the impact that you are experiencing with your program right now, and what it can do for someone's life.
So I was blessed, and I think, to look back at why something was created, you have to understand kind of where you came from. And I was blessed to be born into a chiropractic family. I have, I'm a third generation chiropractor. As you know, my youngest son is getting ready to start chiropractic college this fall at Life. And so I was blessed to grow up with a chiropractic philosophy. I was blessed to come down to Life University when I was just a kid and listen to amazing speakers. I remember, one particular speaker, Ian Grasham, who had a big impact on my philosophy, and I wasn't even in chiropractic college yet. So I think for me, chiropractic has always been about a philosophy and a way of living. And when I graduated in 1991, and I'm literally in my 30th year of practice, and one of the things I'm most proud of, Dr. Gilles, is I still practice with patients. I'll be going to the office a little bit later this morning, and I still practice this model of practice, and I would never not practice, because to me, happiness in life is about serving. And what this model of practice has really allowed me to do is serve people at a much higher level than I could do when I was just practicing chiropractic as a technique, as an adjustment, if you will, for subluxation. So to me, my philosophy was a little bit different in that I thought chiropractic was a lifestyle and not just a treatment.
And I agree with you, because that's really what it is. So speak a little bit about how you evolved this program that you created, 8 Weeks to Wellness, if you would.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things I was a little bit naive of growing in a chiropractic family and being surrounded by amazing chiropractors was that the philosophy of life was different in my eyes than the philosophy of life in the public perception of what health was. I just took it for granted that people understood the power of innate, understood the power of the nervous system, the power of what a healthy lifestyle could do in their life and in their health. And when I graduated, it really wasn't that way. The public perception of what health was very different than mine. And so, as I started to practice, I realized that the public was very condition-based, right? They only went to go see the doctor when they had a problem or a condition. We were very affect-driven, not very function or cause-driven. And to me, I started practicing in that model. I started practicing in an insurance-based model where, I had to diagnose, I had to, do notes, and that's all fine, well, and good. But it started to take some of the passion and the love that I had for why I got into this profession. And so I wanted, and also the other thing is I saw people they just kept coming back in with the same condition because they didn't leave my office doing anything different. They just came in and chiropractic was kind of a treatment for their ailment. And it was a better treatment because it was a more natural drug-free treatment, but they still came back in. So for example, the woman who was carrying 50 extra pounds with the bad low back and the bad knee, she would leave with a great adjustment and better alignment, right? Better nervous system function, but she'd go back out to the same lifestyle that caused her problem. And so I said, there must be a way that we can combine chiropractic with a healthy lifestyle so we can not only adjust the spine and nervous system, but we can adjust the patient's behavior and adjust their lifestyle. And I also knew, Dr. Gilles, we had to do that in a very specific way. I had been through, I was the first person registered for Dr. James Chestnut's wellness certification program when he was running that through the ICA. And I just remember how remarkable that was at the time and how mind-blowing the information was. But I knew information in and of itself wasn't going to change people's behavior because I tried that already. At the time we created 8 Weeks to Wellness, we're talking about early 2000s, 2001, 2002. And it literally took my sister and I a year and a half, 2 years to put the program together. And it was a very special time in our lives because my sister is my twin, right? We're very close. And we literally met for 3 hours each week at a Starbucks, concepting this idea of what would a healthy lifestyle program look like. And so the concept of 8 weeks, well, where did that come from? Well, we knew that from research that it basically took about 56 days for a person to develop a habit of doing something consistent. So there was your 8 weeks, right? And our motto is give us 8 weeks, we'll change the rest of your life. And I just wanted people to live the chiropractic lifestyle for a short period of time and then use their own educated mind to say, is this of value to me? Is this going to increase my life? Does this decrease my symptoms, make my body look better, feel better, my labs better? And so we also developed the concept of a wellness score. We didn't want people just to subjectively take it because, I guess growing up in a chiropractic family, Dr. Gilles, I was a little bit, I guess I had an attitude because I was just like, why do people make fun of chiropractic? Why do they make fun of my dad? Why do they call my dad a quack? I never got that because I look at my family's health and I look at your family's health. And what we're doing is obviously working because we're a healthy family that doesn't take any medication. And you're an unhealthy family and you have all these chronic diseases. So why is it that you make fun of the chiropractor? So I wanted to show people, not just tell them, not just say, hey, believe me, trust me. I wanted to show them physiologically that we were making some amazing changes in a person's physiology. And that's where we came up with a wellness score, where we look at labs, we look at body composition, right? We look at functional movements in the body. So we can literally show a patient or show anybody. To me, it's like going into the court of law. They don't take your word for it. You need evidence to prove your guilt or your innocence. And I wanted evidence to show that chiropractic lifestyle was extremely effective in improving quality of life and outcomes. So the next thing we had to do is think about, okay, well, what is a chiropractic lifestyle? And the great thing is we have this 3T model, right, that we were taught. And I think all of us were taught this in chiropractic school, but we have the 3T model, right? Trauma, thoughts, and toxins, right? Or what we like to say, or James Chestnut would say, how we eat, how we move, and how we think. So we designed the bulk of the program around those three stressors. So we know as far as toxins that we need to eat a certain way, right? So our diet is what I call a meta-paleo-Terranean diet. It's really the best of Mediterranean, paleo, ketogenic diet. Get the sugar out of a person's diet. Get them back into the kitchen. Get them eating whole foods. So we have tons of recipes in our manuals, and we just want people to eat healthfully. Eat the food God made, you'll do okay. Eat the food man made, you're probably not going to do as well, right? The second thing is movement, right? So from the adjustment to functional movement, the number one biomarker of aging, Dr. Gilles, loss of muscle mass. And look at people, how much we're sitting these days. And over the average, I read this the other day, it just blew me away, Dr. Gilles. The average office worker from driving to work to working to coming home, sitting, watching TV, they sit for 15 hours a day. 15 out of 24 hours. Now, subtract 8 hours, 7 hours for sleeping. We're just not up and moving around that much. So we wanted to get people put muscle on their body, improve their cardiovascular function, their mobility. The next thing, and this is, you know, a lot of things I've learned from you, but this is a huge one, but your mental attitude, you know, to understand, and I don't think the average person, they're definitely not going to get this at their medical office, but they don't understand the impact of their thoughts, of their emotions on human health. So we wanted to teach people about how your thoughts impact the quality of your health, how you can actually think about what you're thinking about, how we have to stop thinking incessantly. I always say, you know, we're always talking. We're either talking like I'm doing now, or even when we shut up, we're talking up here. We can't shut this thing off because we haven't been taught how to do that. And I have to tell you, the greatest inspirations in my life, the greatest solutions to the most, you know, pressing problems have come when I've shut my mind up enough to let God speak to me, you know, and praying to me is talking to God. Meditating is listening to God. Ask God, what does God want to tell me? And when I shut up long enough and get silent long enough, guess what? I usually get some divine inspiration. So meditation and mindfulness is a part of the program, right? And then obviously, you know, some other things, massage and things that we built into the program. So, you know, we do have a kind of a very specific way people go through the program, from starting and getting their wellness score labs done, to scheduling out their whole 8 weeks. You know, my motto is that which gets scheduled gets done. I just don't think it would be effective, Dr. Gilles, if you just handed somebody a manual and say, okay, all the information is in this manual. Everything you need to know about nutrition, about chiropractic, about exercise, here it is. Because I know there's a resistance to human behavior. They're going to take that manual, throw it in the back seat of their car, and they may or may not get to it. And some people have the personal discipline to take information and apply it into their life. But the majority of people don't, and I understood that. So to create habits, we had to walk alongside them. They had to come into our office to do the exercise. They had to come in and we had to teach them these things. And we know that doctor means teacher, but when they show up, they're going to learn. They're going to do it. And if they do it long enough, that's where they start to form habits. And I have to tell you, it's just been, I can't imagine practicing any other way. To me, Dr. Gilles, it's like having a toolbox and only having one tool, right? If you just have a hammer, you're going to be able to do some things, but not much, right? But I have so many tools in my toolkit, right? I have the chiropractic adjustment. I have nutrition. I have supplements. I have mindfulness and teaching people about meditation. I have massage. I have all of these tools in my toolkit, and I use them on an as-needed basis depending on what the patient needs. And in terms of creating a successful practice, you know, this was interesting, Dr. Gilles, but in 2003, when we launched the program, my sister and I were doing a little under $1 million. We were doing about $850,000 in the practice, but we were largely insurance dependent. We were about 80 to 85% insurance versus cash. Now, in 2007, when we moved to our new office, because we outgrew our space, our office blew up. We went from about $880,000 collections to over $2 million in collections. And we went from about 80 to 85% insurance to about 30% insurance and 70% cash. And we were collecting over $2 million. So I believe that people will pay for value. And I believe that people, when you provide value, but you have to provide the value first, that people are more than willing to pay you cash, more than willing to give you their credit card, write you a check, but they'll pay in direct proportion to the value you create. And when you create value in terms of giving people their life back, giving their quality of life, their health back, you know, not only people will pay you, but they'll stick around, they'll tell their friends, and that's how you build a practice.
So, you know what I heard you say in this development of your program, it required that you have the ability also to teach people to become engaged. Because as much as it blew up your practice, it made your practice more than twice of what it was before. That's just a byproduct. And it's a byproduct based on what I learned from my mentor, that money is simply a byproduct of great service rendered. So you're obviously at the point where you were developing exceptional service, or delivering rather exceptional service, and therefore your practice grew. But it's because you developed the ability to lead people to a better way so that they would have exceptional results for their health. And then you open their eyes and you open their mind to possibility that every human being was actually born to be healthy, right?
Yes.
The majority, right? Not born to be sick, but actually born to be healthy. And what you've created is a move from a symptom-based approach to care to a wellness-based approach to care, as you described it, right? You start with the wellness score, which at the beginning might be a sickness score because their score may be really, really low, but the goal is to move them into a point where they are well and where they are thriving as human beings, being happy to wake up, happy to go to work, happy in their marriage, happy in their family values, and all of that. So it's way beyond just having a practice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, I mean, what you said, it really resonates, because I think all behavior starts with some sort of a initiation or some sort of a cue. And I think we've just created the wrong cues in healthcare. Most people think of their health in terms of symptoms. And so, even for chiropractic, why do most chiropractors have a low PVA? And because, people are coming in with some sort of a symptom, whether it be a migraine or neck pain or back pain. And once the cue goes away, so does the patient, because they haven't been taught to understand that good health is not about absence of symptoms. Good health is about function. And so when you can show a patient, here's your function, even how many people, Dr. Gilles, they feel fine, but physiologically they're a mess. They just haven't hit the crisis stage yet. So when you can re-educate in a person's mind that we're not going to use symptoms as a cue for whether we engage in healthy behaviors, we're going to use function and physiology. And by the way, I'm going to reflect to you that function and how we're doing. And I'm going to actually give you a grade on how you're doing. So even if you're a B and you're feeling fine, you may want to say, hey, I want to be an A with my health. I want to, I want to make sure that I'm functioning the best that I can be, or be the best version of myself.
So for people listening in that have not experienced this way of thinking, I'd like you to share with them the possibility of reversal and enhancement of their health. For example, I had a test done probably a couple of years ago. Yeah, a couple of years ago. I was 64 at the time, and it was a test for aortic stiffness, and it related, it took the measure of my chronological age, and then it measured my physiological or biological age. So at 64, which was my chronological age at the time, my biological age, even to my surprise, was 45. So the physician that was doing the examination was like, oh my gosh, what do you do how do you do this? And we got into this wellness lifestyle, not your program, because I haven't done your program, but I've been to your office. I've seen what you do, and it's absolutely exceptional. But I've lived a similar lifestyle for a long time. And here he was enamored. He was a medical doctor, a friend of mine. He was totally enamored with finding out, like, how did you do this? Because at the time he was 65 and his physiological age in this measurement was 69. Wow. She says, I was born 65 years ago, but my physiology says it's 69. So I taught him a few things. This is before he even went to the chiropractor. I referred him to a chiropractor. He had never been. He wasn't quite willing to go yet. He understood that his chiropractic patients were all healthier than those who didn't receive chiropractic. And he initially never understood why, and then got into the process of understanding why. So I started getting him just to change his thoughts when he woke up. In other words, to input great thoughts into his mind. And then I taught him some extension exercises and to actually lay on a health bridge. And in less than 2 months, his biological age dropped from 69. Remember, he was 65, dropped from 69 to 63 in 2 months.
Yeah.
And then he started chiropractic care, and now things are changing. So, share a little bit with the audience this possibility, because a lot of our audience are not chiropractors. The majority of my audience actually on this podcast are not chiropractors. There are people looking to improve their leadership skills, and there are people that, in some cases are already leading groups. But what better way to help a leader than to help them discover they can be healthy, so that they're thriving in their leadership. So please share that for a minute or two.
Sure. I mean, I think the essential, and you would agree with this, Dr. Gilles, the essential component or currency of leadership is energy. And if you look up energy in the dictionary, you know what it says? It says the capacity to do work. So, your level of energy is directly related to how much productivity or work you're getting done in your life. So the very foundation of being a leader is how much work you can produce, right? And energy is that work. Well, guess what? Einstein taught us, E equals MC squared. Energy is not created. It's not destroyed. It's just transferred in forms. Okay. So if you want a lot of energy in your body, you've got to put energy into your body, right? So everything that when you think about it in terms of that, the thoughts, the foods, the movements, everything that you do in your body is translating into a transfer of energy. And you're either robbing that body of energy or you're giving that body life and energy. And I always say to my patient, I'm like, do you plug your cell phone in at night to charge? They're like, yeah, of course. So I'm like, well, what would happen if you didn't do that? It wouldn't work, right? I said, so what do you do to recharge and recover your body? Okay. And we can have a discussion based on, okay, you're expending energy throughout the day with your thoughts, with your movements, but what are you doing to recover that energy, right? And so, I mean, I don't know how to spell it out any better, but, in my life, I look at what I get done in an average day. And again, I look at the biologic versus chronologic age. A lot of my friends are having grandkids right now. And, I biologically, my oldest is 26. I guess he could have kids right now. I don't have any grandkids, but, I don't feel as a grandparent. I hope I don't look as a grandparent, right? Because, even if I had grandkids, I want that biological age and energy to be way up here because so much to get done in my life, from my 2 businesses to my family to, my profession to my friends. There's so much of life to enjoy, and you just simply can't do it if you don't have energy.
I mean, you got that right, because I'll tell you what, it'll be even just as great when you do have grandkids, because I've got 5 grandchildren and I'm as energetic as I really want to be. But it requires work. Well,
Yeah.
what a concept, right? It requires dedication to bring yourself to that level so you can function at the highest possible level.
And think about, Dr. Gilles, think about your grandkids. Think about what an exceptional leader you are. And think about the life lessons that you're imparting to these grandkids of yours who are going to remember that. And I get tingles when I think about this, but they're going to remember their grandfather, Gilles. They're going to remember the lessons that he taught them. And how many grandparents are not in their grandkids' lives, Dr. Gilles, because they didn't live a healthy lifestyle and they died way too young, or they're the inactive grandparent who just sits in the chair and can't get out of their chair because they're so chronically sick.
My vision, or not my vision rather, but my view of longevity was my paternal grandfather, who was the first person that I knew who died. He was 61 years old when he died. And I will tell you that he was a kind, super nice guy, but he looked old when he died. And some say, well, yeah, he looked old to you because you were only 6 when he died. I said, no, if I looked at a picture of him now, he still looks old because I'm 5 years beyond what he lived, but he lived a different lifestyle. And so people, what you're hearing from Dr. Dane today is that the lifestyle you choose matters. Every decision you make as it relates to health and healing matters. If you want to thrive in life, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Some of those tough decisions are going to be to rise a little bit early in the morning and do your exercise. I remember, Dr. Dane, that the number one reason why people told me they didn't exercise is because they were too tired. Another reason was because they didn't have time. And I said, if I told you that after 30 to 60 days of a regular exercise routine, you would feel less tired every single day because you exercise, and you would be more productive, which ultimately would give you more time, right? Not the real units of time, but if you're more productive, you feel, well, I got this done in 2 hours. Now I have another hour to do something else. I said, if I told you that's what was going to happen, would you be willing to make the change? And I would think that that's probably some of the questions that you've had from people. How do you get them to the point, maybe as a closing thought, where they're willing to make the change? How do you get someone to commit to say, okay, doc, this makes sense to me. I'm in, I'm doing it, and then keep them engaged so they can then experience what it's like 60 days down the road?
Well, I've done a lot of study on behavior and why people change. And, it really comes down to people's why, and again, I don't want to give a cliche answer here, but I can only tell you there's been so many patients over the years who've come in, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, right? They're down, bases loaded, they're down 5 runs, and they come in like, I need to hit the home run, right? Because, now I'm in a crisis state and I got one more chance at this, right? And so what makes those people change their behaviors? I think they have to have a purpose or a reason. Again, we talked about grandkids. My purpose in life, Dr. Gilles, is to meet my great grandkids and be an active part of their life. Not just to meet them, to be an active part of their life. Not my grandkids, my great grandkids. Now, if I'm going to do that, that requires that I live to 80, 90, maybe 100 years to meet my great grandkids. So I think about people's why. So I think if people have a purpose beyond their own self, right? I think so many people, they don't have a purpose in life. They don't have a reason to get them up and say, my life matters. I'm creating excellence. I'm serving others. I need to be around. If I go, so many things in life are going to fall apart. And I see so many women, Dr. Gilles, they put their health on the back burner until they get diagnosed with breast cancer, or they're diagnosed with diabetes, or they have a heart attack or a stroke. And they always say, I wish I would have taken better care of myself. I took care of everybody else, but I didn't take care of myself. And so I think it requires that change of perception, like you do when you tell somebody, hey, listen, if you started exercising after 30 days, you're going to have way more energy. And it's not a matter of getting up and saying, I don't have the energy. You're going to have the energy. I don't have to think about exercising every week or eating a good healthy meal. It's just a habit. But habits have to be procured, and they're procured through repetition. So there has to be that initiation of saying, okay, I'm going to schedule this. I'm going to meet somebody at the gym, because I know if I'm meeting somebody, guess what? I'm more likely to show up. I have to get leverage over my behavior change. And that's what people have to do. How can I get leverage over my behavior change so that, if the alarm clock goes off, there's nobody to hold me accountable. I'm just going to hit the snooze button, get 45, 60 minutes more of sleep instead of going to exercise. So I think it has to be their why, their purpose, a greater purpose, and it has to be some sort of leverage in that behavior change. And I heard something. I read a book, and as you know, I recommended a book to you. I'm always reading, but I read a book called Excellence Wins, and it's by Horst Schultz. And Horst Schultz is one of the greatest leaders. He was the leader that really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. But one of the things that he said that I really got out of it was he said that leaders do two things. They create excellence, and they go to work to be with their friends. And I just love that, right? Create excellence and go to, yeah. And the second part really got me, because I was like, go to work to be with their friends. So to me, I surround myself with people like yourself. I'm very, very closed in terms of the people that I let into my sphere of influence, because I know those people are going to have an influence over my behavior. So, I really choose my friends wisely in who I let into my organization. So, hopefully this interview has inspired and helped people to be a better leader.
Well, thank you for that. And yes, fellow leaders, we want you to be healthy. We want you to thrive. And to do that, it may be necessary for you to start making different decisions. Closing question for you, Dr. Dane. How many 8 Weeks to Wellness doctors do you have trained around the globe right now?
We have probably 70, 75.
So 75. Obviously, there's not an 8 Weeks to Wellness doctor everywhere in the world, every city where people live. But there's an opportunity for them to find information on 8 Weeks to Wellness. How do they find information on your program?
It's super simple. Our website is 8ww.com. So 3 letters, one number, 2 letters, 8ww.com. They can go there, get information. They can find me on Facebook. They can reach out to me. I'm always available to help anybody, because, chiropractic has been such a blessing in my life. It's given me healthy children. It's given me a purpose to wake up to every day. It's given me my own energy and vitality. And I'll never be able to repay back chiropractic for everything that it's given to me. But I'm going to try. And the best way that I can do that is helping another brother or sister in chiropractic.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dane, for taking time. I know it was an very early morning start. That's the only way our 2 schedules could match. And I really wanted people to understand that the power of health resides in them. And it just requires sometimes to start making different choices. And it's all available to you if you dedicate yourself, and you could start experiencing the change in a period as short as 30 to 60 days. What a concept. Closing comment from you, Dr. Dane?
I would just say, what I've learned, and I'm always learning from interviews, but, what I took out of this interview and what I would recommend to everybody is just maybe choose one thing. Maybe it is your exercise. Maybe it is your spirituality. Maybe it is your diet. Maybe it is, just putting more of a emphasis on health. But there's one thing I know that you can do in your life better this week. And I would ask that you commit to that, get leverage over that, and literally implement the behavior change in your life and give it the 8 weeks, right? And see what happens in your life, because I don't think that you'll go back.
And do you agree that it could start with something as easy as walking 15 minutes a day for 60 days, that they would experience change that quickly, right?
Without a doubt. I'm getting ready to go for my walk with my wife here in just a couple minutes. So yes, I believe it because I practice it.
Exactly. Well, happy day. Thanks for taking time out of your day to share your wisdom, your knowledge with our audience. And I know that those who listen, some who listen, will actually make a better choice today because you, Dr. Dane, took the time to share your experience with us. Thanks so much.
God bless everybody.